do the same. So the beginning when we learned about the three people, Bilam Arasha, right?
Yes.
And then Eov, and then
Yisro.
So I heard that in Rabbi Lappin was talking about it, about being quiet, that Eov got such a punishment because he was quiet, and Yitro ran away, and basically he got Talmidim that was sitting in the basement, but we didn't say that Yitro really got a parsha in the Torah also, so that's a big thing, because he ran away and he couldn't stand what was going on with Paro. But he said the following. So he said in 1954, I think it was, or 1952, that when the Russians were killing all the Jews and killing people over there in Russia, and they wanted to protest against that, so they came to the Moetzes, all the Rabbonim, Moshe Feinstein, lots of people came together in New York, and they had a big gathering together, and they said, what should we do? Should we start protesting? So they said they should start protesting. So what happened was that they said, no, we shouldn't protest, because just like Eo felt like if he would protest against Paro, so his life would be in danger. So he kept quiet. He didn't say anything. But you see that basically that wasn't the right thing, because he got into big trouble for that. So he said that there was the Boyan, not the Boyan, one of the Rebbes was there, the Bluzheva Rebbe quoted this Gemara, and he said, you dare not be quiet. You need to protest, because he saw what happened to Eob because he didn't protest. And they actually in 1952, they started to protest against the Russians over there because what they were doing to the Jewish people in Russia.
So in 1954, Stalin, they orchestrated a doctor's trial. That's what the doctors were all Jewish.
Right.
And Stalin, they claim maybe he had syphilis by this time. That means he sort of lost. I mean, during World War II, Stalin was quite an effective war leader. And it looks like after that he may have had a stroke. They're not sure medically, but he sort of lost it. And it was like going to be a pogrom.
Right.
There was a trial. They claimed that the doctors plotted against the life of Stalin. All of a sudden, so this was going on. All of a sudden, Stalin dies in his sleep. He died suddenly. And then, of course, Khrushchev, there was 2 years where there was a power struggle. And Khrushchev, 1956, became the commissar. And they all rejected Stalin. That means Russia started moderating its views with Khrushchev. So the davening that they did must have helped.
No, but they obviously they protested also.
Protested, right?
You're not allowed to sit quiet when people are suffering. Like we have with all the Chatufim and everybody. You're not allowed to sit quiet. You got to protest.
In 1967, when Soviet Jewry began, there was a major debate. Should we protest? Should we not protest? So the Lubavitcher Rebbe felt very strongly, because like Meir Kahane was leading the fight for Soviet Jewry. They were chaining themselves, big protest. So the Lubavitcher Rebbe said, listen, he felt it was the wrong thing to do. Protest. Now, this is remember, by Bilam, they were meya'etz to Paro what to do. And
but I think
Yisro protested. He said, this is not the right thing to do. And Eov was quiet.
No, but
Lubavitcher Rebbe said, by protesting, it's going to make things worse. We are from Russia. We live in Russia. They had tons of Chabad rabbis in Russia. So throughout that period, as Soviet Jews were releasing, there was a debate. Should we be public about it? Or should we use pressure like through Henry Jackson in the Senate and quiet diplomacy and things like that. So there was a machlokas there regarding.
Yeah, but so, I'm saying if you use this Gemara as a raya and the Bluzheva Rebbe was actually in the camps. It's actually a Mishpocha Esti's first cousin. It's married to the son of the Bluzheva. It's a phenomenal thing that he got up and he said, "Listen, you have to go according to this Gemara. You can't just sit quiet."
Quiet.
So I'm not arguing.
Yeah, this is a riot. This is a riot. Yeah, they thought they're politically. It may make things worse.
Right. Well, so that's exactly what Eob thought. I'll be quiet, otherwise, it'll be worse for them. But that's not the case.
Right. Well, we don't know why Eob doesn't say why Eob was quiet.
No, it doesn't say, but you see that he was punished.
You could learn it into Eob.
It was punished, but the amazing thing is that he lived at that time. I didn't realize that.
Well, the Baba Basra says Moshe Rabbeinu Kosav Sifro, meaning Torah's Moshe, and Sefer Eob. So the Chazal, right? So that makes sense now. Now you understand.
Right, that makes sense.
Because Moshe Rabbeinu is alive at the time of Paro.
Right.
He's a contemporary with Yisro and Bilam and Moshe Rabbeinu. So now we understand why it makes sense when they said Moshe wrote Sefer Eob.
So hold on, but Bilam was a son of Lavan, but Lavan, he must have been very old.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
Exactly.
Interesting. Interesting. This Haggadah is crazy. It's like just beyond belief.
Remember, Yaakov lived 17 years in Egypt, and they were from the time that they came with Yaakov was 210. So you're talking about 190 years. And Lavan was around with Yaakov, so you know what I'm saying. So you're talking about 300 years, mamish, between Lavan and Bilam. Okay.
Okay, there's a lot of interesting stuff going on over here, and there's other stuff further on. Okay, let's learn.
So we're on Kuf Zayin, Amid Aleph. Tomorrow, Daf Yomi is at 5 o'clock at the shul.
Should we take into account the Rabbi's Shabbos a good old drasha?
It's 5:45.
Okay, got it. Okay.
It's 5:45. Okay. A person should not ask for tests from Hashem. David Melech Israel asked for a nisoyon and he failed. David asked Hashem, why does it say in Shemona Esrei, Elokei Avram, Elokei Yitzchak, Elokei Yaakov, ve'ein omrim Elokei David? Amar, Kodesh Baruch Hu answered, Inu minsuli, they were tested by me. Va'at lo minsisli, you have not been tested. Amar lefon Ribbon Shalom, b'chaneni v'naseni. Test me. Shenemar b'chaneni Hashem v'naseni. Omar, so Hashem said, Minsalacha, Vavina Milsabadach, I will test you differently. Diladidu lo datinu. To the Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, I didn't tell them how I was going to test them. Vilu ano komadin lacha. I will grant you even something better than I granted them. I'm going to test you with sexual immorality. So he knew what his mission was going to be. Miyad. That night, David HaMelech wakes up in the middle of the night. Amrav Yehuda, because he had heard that his test would be with sexual immorality, he started having relations with his wives in the daytime that day, because he figured, well, and therefore I'll have less desire at night. But he forgot what's been stated, Ever Kot Yesh Ba'adam. A man has a Aver cotton is male genitalia. Hamazbio, somebody who tries to have a lot of intimate relations, right? He's always hungry for it. Vahamarivo, he who starves himself from sexual relations, saveya. He's happy. So this only made it worse. It only by having relations with all his wives that day, it only increased his taiva that night. So what happened? Vayitalech al gag beit hamelech. He went up to the roof of the palace. Vayar ishat rochetzes me'al hagag. He sees a woman taking a bath. Va'isha tovas mareh ma'od. The woman is extremely beautiful. It doesn't just say tovas mareh, it says ma'od. Bashava hava, it's bashava. Kachaifa reisha tusi chalsot. She's shampooing her hair. And she's behind like a beehive. So, or in the beehive, whatever, so nobody could see her. Also, sudden it me could see firta. The sudden appears like a bird. And the bird flies, and David is a hunter. So Pasuk Begira, he shoots an arrow at the bird. Pitka l'chalsa, and the arrow broke this beehive. Igle v'chazi, it revealed Bathsheba, and so he saw her. Miyad vayishlach David, so vayidrosh leisha. David sent word, I want this woman. So they said to him, what do you mean? Vayomer alozos Bathsheba, Basaliyam Eshes Ur Yachiti. This is Bathsheba, the wife of Ur Yachiti. Still, Vaishlach David Malachim, Vayikacheha, and took her, Vatavoela, Vaishkavima, Vihi Miskadeshes Mitumasa, Vateshev el Beis. The pasuk we learned in Shmuel Beis. Hada Dichsiv, Bechada Libi Bekadet Laila, Tzarfatni Baltim Tzimasi Bayaverpi. Amar Echa Zama Novel Bepume Demand Design Level Amar Ki Milsa. David HaMelech says, Alavai that my eyelids should fall into the mouth of me regarding when I said I want to be tested, I put my foot in my mouth. If I wouldn't have said it, I wouldn't have failed in this nisayon. Dorish Rabba. My dichsiv lanatzech David b'Hashem chasisi eich ton l'nafshi nodi arechem tzipor. Omer David n'akol Rebbeinu Shalom mecholi al oso avon. Hashem, forgive me for the oven of Bathsheba. Shelo yomru harsha b'chem, the great gadol David HaMelech tzipor naduto, the bird took him out of the world because the bird, when he shot the arrow, that led to the whole problem. Dorash Rav Maidich Siv, Lech Levatcha Chatasi, Vehe Rabeinecha, Asisi Leman Titztak B'Dvarecha, Tizke B'Shavtech, Omer David Nekadosh Baruch Hu. Yilav Yediyah Kameich, it's an open knowledge in front of you. The Ibo'in Lemichve Liyitzri Havi Kaifina. If I would have held back if I would have wanted to hold back my Yitzri, I could have done it. Ela Amina de Lo Lemri Av de Zachi Lemare. I purposely sinned so that people wouldn't say, oh, the servant was victorious over the master, meaning David is being tested by Hashem, and by fulfilling the test, it like shames Hashem. Because Hashem said you're not going to be able to stand with the test. It would have fulfilled the test. It would have contradicted what Hashem told him. Dorish Rav, my dichsiv, ki ani letzela nachon, umachovai nachdi tamid. Ru'ui aisa b'Sheva b'Seliam leDavid m'sheis me'abreishim. I'm like the rib of the first woman. Bathsheba there was a zivug for David HaMelech already from creation. Ella, sheba elo b'machov. It ended up, yes, but it came through pain. It happened prematurely. He should have waited for Ur Yachiti to die. Then she would have been a widow. He could have married her. Uvitzali simchu v'nesvu nesvu alay nachim, ledati korv lo dom. Omer David nekadosh baruch hu. Kalilu v'necha, shemayu b'sori lo hayad d'mi shoyseis. If they tore my flesh open, I would not bleed, because I've fasted so much, trying to do tshuva. I have no blood inside of me. In yeshiva, when they're learning about the 4 capital punishments, they stop and they say to me, to embarrass him, somebody who has relations, adultery with a married woman, how is he killed? I would give the answer. Aval yesh lo chelik l'haba. An adulterer is an avarian, but he doesn't lose his olam haba. Aval amal b'be'er chaver b'rabim. Those who embarrass somebody publicly, which you just did, ein lo chelik l'haba. So it's a good answer. As David got older and sicker, so he had 18 wives. So there's a din of ona. You have to provide sexual relations for your wife. Midin, he provided all 18, even though, he was old and sick. Shenema yagati banchasi asched. It's one of the kapitlach tilim. B'chol laila mitasi b'dimasi arsi amse. It has to do. We do it by tachanun. He would soak his bed with tears because of the yagiyah that he had to do to satisfy his 18 wives. David Zara. David Bada Rosh. Ashtei Yishtach v'sham leluhim. So Pasuk in Shmuel Beis that he came to the Rosh. Rosh refers to Avodah Zarah. And Nemar, But Sama Rosheh Di Zahav Tav, which is this is a Pasuk in Daniel, which we're going to learn maybe Sunday night. I'm not sure we'll get. It's Daniel Perik Beis Lamed Beis. We may not get there. May get there. This Salam, its head was gold. So the Navi came to David. Amr lo, Yomru Melech shekamocha yad avodah zarah. The people are going to say, a king like you can worship avodah zarah. Amr lo, Melech shekamoisi yargenu beno. Mutav yavod avodah zarah v'yischalo shem shemayim for Hesya. If I worship avodah zarah, the people will say David was punished. Amr lo, my time of kansibus yifas toar. Oh, this is all happening when Avshalom is rebelling against David. So he was concerned, if I am killed by my son in the rebellion, people will think, how did that happen? If I worship avodah zarah, there won't be chilul Hashem. People understand I'm being punished for worshiping avodah zarah. So Chushi said to him, Amr lo, my time of kanizbis yifas toar. David HaMelech married a yifas toar from battle, and that engagement led to Avshalom. Amr yifas toar chman Hashem. What do you mean? I'm allowed to live with a yifas toar. Amr lo dirashta smuchim. Yeah, but didn't you darshan the smuchis aparsus the samich lay? What's right after the parsha of yifas toar? Kiyeli ish ben sorer moireh. To teach me, you can have a rebellious son if you marry a yifas toar. Darash Rav Dustoy Dimin Biri. Ma Davidomi l'soicher kusi. A goyish merchant. He's dropping the price bit by bit until the customer is happy. Omer David Nakosh Baruch Hu Shalom. Shkios miyavim. He wanted a atonement on any of the shkagois that he did. Omer shviki lecha. Yeah, I'm moichel. He wanted more. Meaning the staros not came. He wanted to be moichel on averus that he did quietly, secretly. Omer shviki lecha. Fine, I'm moichel. Gami zaydim choshuch avdech. I wanted you to be moichel on things I did b'meisid. Kodesh Baruch Hu said shviki lecha. It's mochel. Ayim shol bi as esam. The loli shtoi be Rabbana. He didn't want the Chachamim to talk bad about him. Shriki lecha. I agree. V'nikesim mipesha ra. Shlo yichtav serchuni. He didn't want it written at all about his chet. Amar lo efshar. That I can't do. So Uma Yud Shenatati Misorai. Avram's wife Sarai had a Yud removed and she was given a Hey, Sarai. What happened to that Yud? Oimed v'tzover kamashem was yelling that you took me out of the word Sarai. Ad sheba Yoshua v'safti lo. I added the Yud of Sarai to Hosea. Shenema vayikra Moshe Hosea binun Yoshua. Then call a parsha kul achas kama v'kama. I can't remove the parsha in Shmuel that talks about. You see, every letter it's trying to say every letter is a cheshbon. That Yud was waiting all those years until it could be added to Yoshua's name. So I can't erase a whole parsha. Then he asked, "V'nikesi me pesha, clean me from pesha rav." I'll also oven kulam. I want mechila for that whole sin with Bashem. Omar, for osid Shlomo bin Chalomar b'chachmaso, your son Shlomo that you can have with Bathsheba is going to say in wisdom, Hayichte ish eish b'cheiko God of lo tisrafena. Are you going to hold on to fire and not burn you? Are you going to walk on coals v'raglav lo tichvena and you won't have burns? Kain abolish is for Eloi nakek lo nageba. If you commit adultery, it's going to remain. Amar like kolaki nitra hu gavra is so referring to himself. I'm such a lost cause. There's no takana. Amar kibul alechi yisurin. Accept yisurin, and that'll be a kapar. Kibul alech and accept it. Amar yidam shisha chadoshim nitztar daviv niskalkim in shechina. He became a leper for 6 months, and he had no shechina. Upirshim imenu Sanhedrin separated from him. And how do we know shenitztar? Because it says techteni be'ezo, which is used as the part of the kapor process for a mitzvah. Betar techapseni mishel galbin. You see, he needed some tahara as a mitzvah. Nistalke men shechina, because it says Hashiva li soson yishecha, return to me my happiness. Beruach nediva tispecheni beruach hakodesh. How do we know Pirshu Mena Sanhedrin? Yashuvu li yireich v'yodei dosecha. Return to me the fearful ones. Shisha chadoshim inolan. How do we know it's 6 months? And it goes through a calculation which we'll learn tomorrow in shul. I'm going to stop here.
Okay.
This was today's blot, so we'll do at least a blot and a half, probably not more because it's a long blot.
Okay.
And then Sunday, Novi at 8, and Daf Yomi will probably be at 7.
Okay.